As the royal cartographer, my days were often spent in the quiet grandeur of the kingdom's library. Sunlight streamed through pall-arched windows, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. I worked meticulously, inking new details onto a map of the northern border. The scent of old paper and ink filled the peaceful space. It was a calm, studious existence. One afternoon, the head librarian assigned me a less exciting task: archiving old documents. These belonged to a retired court official, and they had been stored away for years. I methodically worked through dusty scrolls and brittle parchments. It was routine work, somewhat boring, but necessary for preserving history. My hands often became covered in fine layers of dust. While I was clearing out a small disused office, I needed to move an old wooden desk. It was heavy, made of dark, aged oak. As I pulled it away from the wall, I noticed something unusual. A small, loose panel was hidden at the back of the desk. My curiosity was immediately piqued. This was certainly not part of the standard design. I knelt down, my fingers exploring the edges of the loose panel. With a gentle push, it gave way, swinging inward. Inside, I saw a small hidden compartment. My heart quickened with surprise and intrigue. Neatly tucked away within the dark recess was a single, tightly rolled chart. It seemed to have been there for a very long time. Back at my own desk, I carefully unrolled the chart. It felt unlike anything I had ever touched before. The material was not paper, nor was it parchment. It was thin, flexible, and iridescent, shimmering with subtle colors. It felt strangely organic, almost like reptile hide. This was truly a mysterious object. I ran my fingertips across the chart's surface, marveling at its texture. It felt distinctly scale-like, smooth in places, but with tiny, almost imperceptible ridges. The geographical lines were inked in, clear and precise, but the material itself was the true wonder. It was utterly fascinating. I had never encountered anything quite like it in all my years of study. Later that night, in the quiet solitude of my small apartment, I continued to study the chart. I spread it out on my worn wooden table, surrounded by my own collection of maps. I noticed faint, glowing lines that didn't match any known geography of the kingdom. They seemed to form an unknown network. I felt increasingly puzzled, almost obsessive. I had been working for hours, trying to decipher the strange lines. Feeling a need to keep the chart flat, I reached for my paperweight. It was a smooth, dark gray riverstone, a family heirloom passed down for generations. I casually placed the emberstone on the corner of the worm-scale chart. I had used it countless times before without a second thought. The moment the emberstone touched the chart, something incredible happened. A network of fine, fiery orange cracks suddenly appeared across the stone's surface. It pulsed with a gentle warmth and light. Simultaneously, the strange, faint lines on the worm-scale chart lit up with a soft golden glow. I gasped, utterly shocked and amazed by the sudden magical display. The next few days were a blur of intense, secret research. I spent every available moment in the library, no longer focused on archiving. Instead, I delved into ancient texts and forbidden lore. I was determined to understand the connection between the stone and the chart. My focus shifted entirely to legends of dragons and forgotten magic. I spent countless hours in the quiet, dusty corners of the royal library. One evening, deep into the night, I found a forgotten book. Its worn covers told stories of ancient lore. Inside, a passage described firestones that glowed in the presence of drakes. My heart pounded. It perfectly matched the Emberstone. The discovery was thrilling and validated my wild theories. The book's words removed all doubt. The worm scale chart was real. This was not just a curiosity, but a path. I knew I had to follow it. My comfortable life as a scholar now felt too small. I looked at a large map of the kingdom on the wall. The familiar lines now seemed to whisper of adventure, of a destiny waiting. That night, under the cloak of darkness, I prepared for my journey. My small room was filled with the quiet rustle of fabric. I packed a simple leather bag, sturdy traveler's clothes, dried food, and a water skin. The worm scale chart and the Emberstone, carefully wrapped, felt heavy in my hands. A mix of nervousness and purpose filled me. This was a true departure. Before leaving, I wrote a short note. My hand trembled slightly as I penned the words. It stated I was taking a leave for personal research. This was a polite lie, of course. I was not just leaving my job, I was leaving my entire life behind. Anxiety tightened my chest, but the pull of the unknown was stronger. Just before dawn, I slipped out of my quiet apartment. The city was still asleep, bathed in the soft glow of the moon. My footsteps echoed softly on the cobblestones. I moved through empty streets, past sleeping houses and silent shops. Each step felt both stealthy and hopeful. I was leaving my old life, heading towards a new, uncertain adventure. Days later, I was deep in the countryside. The landscape was peaceful, with rolling green hills and distant forests. However, it was completely unfamiliar to me. I had always preferred books to open roads. My senses were heightened. I observed every rustle, every shadow. I felt wary, but also a growing sense of freedom. I often stopped to consult the worm scale chart. It was my only guide in this vast wilderness. Each time I pulled out the Emberstone, it would glow faintly, a warm, fiery orange network appearing across its surface. This confirmed my direction on the chart. The small light always brought a wave of reassurance, a sign I was still on the right path. My journey soon led me into the rugged foothills of the Dragon's Tooth Mountains. The landscape became steeper, rockier, and wilder. Civilization was now far behind me. Towering peaks, jagged and imposing, loomed in the distance. The air grew colder, thinner. I felt a thrill of adventure, yet also a slight intimidation by their sheer scale. One afternoon, the sky darkened with alarming speed. A sudden, fierce storm erupted. Rain lashed down, driven by powerful winds. Thunder rumbled, shaking the very ground. I scrambled frantically, seeking shelter. Luckily, I found a small, shallow cave, just big enough to escape the downpour. After the storm passed, the landscape was completely changed. Trees were down, and mudslides had covered the path. My heart sank. I was utterly lost. The familiar landmarks were gone. Feeling desperate, I pulled out the worm scale chart and the Emberstone again. I hoped they would guide me through this disorienting wilderness. The Emberstone's glow grew stronger, pulling me forward. It led me off the faint trail, deeper into the quiet woods. I felt a strange trust, a hopeful feeling, following its warm light. Suddenly, I stumbled into a small, open clearing. A well-kept cabin stood there, smoke gently rising from its chimney. I felt a wave of relief, but also a careful caution. The cabin door slowly opened. A woman, Sarah, stepped out, holding an axe. Her sharp, piercing blue eyes fixed on me with clear suspicion. I raised my hands, trying to seem harmless. "I am a lost traveler," I explained, my voice tired and unsure. My words came out jumbled. I was not very convincing. To show her my route, I reached into my bag for the chart. As I pulled it out, the emberstone slipped. It fell to the ground between us, glowing softly. Sarah's eyes immediately fixed on the glowing emberstone. Her suspicious expression quickly changed. It became a look of intense focus, almost like recognition. Slowly, Sarah lowered her axe to the ground. She looked at me, then back at the stone. "You should not have that," she said, her voice low and serious. Inside her small cabin, I explained my discovery. I told her about the chart and the emberstone. Sarah listened intently, studying the worm scale chart on the table. Sarah looked up, her face grave. "Seeking what this chart leads to is dangerous," she warned me. "Some things are meant to remain hidden." "Knowledge should not be hidden," I argued passionately. My genuine scholarly curiosity was clear. I truly believed understanding was always better. After a long silence, Sarah finally nodded. Her expression was serious, almost reluctant, but her eyes held a new resolve. "The path is not for you alone, Richard," she stated, her voice clear and firm. "I will guide you." A wave of relief washed over me, though I knew the journey would be difficult. We set out the very next morning, the air crisp and cold. Sarah led the way, her movements confident and sure-footed through the rugged mountain terrain. I followed closely, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. The sun was just rising, casting long shadows across the peaks. Our journey had truly begun. The terrain quickly became much more difficult than I had imagined. Steep rock faces and loose scree made every step a challenge. I struggled, my scholar's robes not suited for such climbing. Sarah, however, was always there. She offered a steady hand or pointed out a better foothold. Her quiet support kept me going. Sarah possessed an uncanny knowledge of the mountains. She often paused, pointing to subtle markings on rocks that I would never have seen. These were not obvious symbols, but faint scratches or unusual stone formations. She was showing me a hidden way, a path known only to a few. It was truly remarkable. After days of arduous climbing, we finally arrived at what Sarah called the Whispering Pass. It was a high, narrow mountain pass, almost completely concealed. Huge rock falls and ancient gnarled trees hid its entrance. A feeling of triumph mixed with anticipation filled me. We were close, I could feel it. As we stepped through the concealed pass, the world transformed. A vast hidden valley opened up before us, stretching out beneath the clear sky. It was incredibly lush and green, a vibrant contrast to the harsh mountains we had just crossed. An overwhelming sense of awe washed over me. It was truly beautiful. I instinctively reached into my satchel and pulled out the emberstone. It was no longer just faintly warm. Now it was glowing with a brilliant, steady light, pulsing with an inner fire. The warmth spread through my hand, a powerful, magical sensation. This place was special. Suddenly, a huge shadow passed over us, momentarily darkening the valley. We both looked up, our hearts pounding. Soaring majestically against the setting sun was a massive dragon. Its form was immense, silhouetted against the orange and purple sky. It was an overwhelming sight. The dragon, Ignis, circled once above the valley, its movements surprisingly graceful for its size. Then it descended, landing a short distance away with a powerful yet controlled thud. Its scales, like volcanic rock, shimmered in the fading light. Its molten gold eyes were fixed on us, watching our every move. It was terrifying, yet awe-inspiring. I stood completely frozen, unable to move or even speak. A strange mix of terror and profound wonder was etched onto my face. This was it. Ignis, the last drake, slowly turned its massive head. Its intense golden gaze locked directly onto me. My breath caught in my throat.
Es momento de la trivia. Te haré 2 preguntas sobre la historia que acabas de escuchar. Piensa bien las respuestas y déjalas en los comentarios. Pregunta número 1. ¿De qué material inusual estaba hecho el Scale Chart que Richard encontró? Tómate tu tiempo para pensar. Pregunta número 2. ¿Qué advertencia le dio Sarah a Richard sobre buscar lo que indicaba el Scale Chart? Esas son las 2 preguntas de nuestra trivia. No olvides dejar tus respuestas en los comentarios. Me encanta leer lo que piensan sobre las historias.
Si te gustó el video, pon me gusta, suscríbete y activa la campanita para no perderte la próxima parte.